What if your comfort is a trap? What if the voice that says you read just being realistic is actually the quiet assassin of your potential? There's a reason you felt restless, even when everything looks fine on the surface. A reason you keep making plans you never start, writing goals you never pursue. That reason isn't laziness. It isn't lack of talent. It's something more subtle, more dangerous, more human. It's weakness, disguised as safety. Today, we're going to confront that disguise head on. Through the unforgiving lens of Friedrich Nietzsche, we'll explore a radical idea that many of us don't just live with weakness. We cling to it. We defend it. We make it part of our identity. And until we name it, challenge it, and ultimately transcend it, we will never touch the life we're capable of living. If that stirs something in you, don't look away. This is just the beginning. Imagine someone like Alex, 28, smart, creative, working in graphic design. On paper, his life looks decent, a steady job, solid skills, promising future, but behind the scenes, he's restless. He talks about going freelance, starting his own studio, finally doing the work that lights him up. But whenever he's close to taking the leap, the same line comes out. I'm just not ready yet. Not ready. Not good enough. Maybe next year. He's not lazy. He's not lacking skill. He's not trapped. He's holding on. To what? To weakness, but not the obvious kind. Not the kind you cry about or post motivational quotes over. No, this is the kind that hides behind noble-sounding lies. I'm just being responsible. I don't want to be arrogant. It's not the right time. This is the kind of weakness Nietzsche saw everywhere. So subtle, most people don't even know they're carrying it. He called it slave morality, the internal mindset of the person who avoids discomfort, who trades challenge for safety, who confuses humility with self-erasure. The one who says, I'm not like those bold people, but really means, I'm afraid of what might happen if I let myself be powerful. But this isn't a lecture on guilt or shame. Nietzsche didn't blame people for clinging to weakness. He simply refused to let them pretend it was virtue. He wanted us to wake up, to recognize how often we mistake our self-imposed limitations for character, how often we call our fears values and our stagnation maturity, because if we don't understand why we stay small, we'll keep defending the walls of our prison like they're boundaries we chose. So what about you? What old belief have you outgrown, but still obey? What invisible line have you drawn around your potential? What version of yourself are you still protecting, even as it keeps you stuck? See, most people aren't afraid of failure. They're afraid of responsibility. Because if you admit you're powerful, then you have to use that power. And that means risk, criticism, visibility, accountability. It's far easier to say, I'm not ready, and disappear back into the crowd. But Nietzsche offered something different. He didn't tell you to believe in yourself. He didn't promise that you're perfect just the way you are. He called you to transcend yourself, to become the Übermensch, not a superhero, but a sovereign being. Someone who no longer borrows their worth from the world, but forges it from within. Someone who doesn't avoid fear, but walks through it, reshaped by the fire. Because real strength isn't the absence of weakness, it's the refusal to be ruled by it. So take a moment, reflect. What doors have you never opened? What versions of yourself have you buried under convenience? What dreams have you postponed, not because you couldn't, but because you were too loyal to the identity that says, I'm not enough? If you're still listening, it means you're ready. Ready to stop waiting. Ready to stop shrinking. Ready to become? But before you rise, you must confront what's keeping you grounded. So don't run from your weakness. Stare it down. Name it. Question it. Because on the other side of that confrontation is power. Let's go deeper. In the next part, we lines tear open the psychological machinery behind this trap and reveal why the mind resists change even when it knows better. Don't miss it. Have you ever wondered why it's so easy to sabotage your own progress and so hard to stop? You tell yourself, next time I'll speak up, next time I won't play small, next time I'll finally act, and then next time comes and you don't, you play it safe, again, you shrink, again, you rationalize, again, it's maddening. But here's what Nietzsche would say, you're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not even confused. You're loyal to weakness, not consciously, not deliberately. But deep down, you've made a silent agreement with fear, with limitation, with mediocrity. Because it's easier than confronting the terrifying freedom of who you could actually become. Now, before we go any further, understand this. Nietzsche didn't judge people for this. He understood it. He just refused to accept it as the end of the story. So let's take a deep breath, set aside the shame, and stare this thing in the eye. Let's start with the last man. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche introduces us to this figure, the last man. He's comfortable, predictable. He avoids risk like it's a disease. He's not evil. He's not ambitious either. He lives in a bubble of lukewarm pleasure and passive consumption. No pain, no purpose, no danger, no greatness. He's the person who confuses safety with success. Who thinks happiness is the absence of discomfort? Sound familiar? We see it everywhere. The pursuit of a life without friction, without challenge, without growth. Work a stable job. Numb out with entertainment. Avoid conflict. Fit in. Don't ask big questions. Don't rock the boat. The last man is what happens when a person spends so long avoiding pain. They forget they were ever meant for more. Nietzsche didn't hate the last man. He pitied him. Because once you've given up the struggle for higher values, all that's left is to manage your decline with a smile. So where does this come from? Nietzsche believed it starts with what he called slave morality. Now don't get distracted by the name. It's not a literal social status. It's a psychological condition. Slave morality is the mindset of someone who defines good and evil not by what uplifts life, but by what protects them from fear. It says, power is bad, ambition is arrogant, confidence is selfish, suffering is holy. It turns the painful experiences of life into moral victories. Not because they're inherently noble, but because they're safe, familiar, controllable. And here's the kicker. This morality isn't taught with words. It's absorbed through culture. It's passed down in subtle messages. When you were too bold as a child, maybe someone said, don't get ahead of yourself. When you tried to lead, maybe they said, who do you think you are? When you dreamed out loud, maybe someone laughed. Be realistic. Each little moment chips away at your sense of possibility. Until one day, you find yourself like Alex, convincing yourself you're not ready, not capable, not worthy. Not because it's true, but because it's comfortable. Slave morality is seductive because it asks nothing of you but compliance. It gives you a moral excuse for not growing. It lets you be good while staying small. But Nietzsche wouldn't leave you there, because there's another kind of morality. A different path. It's what he called master morality. Again, don't let the term confuse you. This isn't about domination over others. It's about sovereignty over yourself. Master morality says, what gives life power, depth, and beauty? That is good. It honors vitality, courage, strength, not as brute force, but as creative will, as the inner fire to shape your life rather than drift through it. Where slave morality says, avoid struggle, master morality says, struggle is the birthplace of value. Where slave morality says, let others define you, master morality says, define yourself, or remain undefined forever. Now here's the raw truth Nietzsche delivers. No one can make this shift for you. No system, no teacher, no motivation speech. The moment you stop clinging to weakness must come from within. It's the moment you stop hiding behind your wounds and start wielding them. It's the moment you stop seeking fairness and start seeking power, the kind that comes from radical responsibility. Because here's something no one talks about enough. The truth hurts ... but weakness costs. It costs you years, opportunities, joy, self-respect. And over time, it starts to rot your soul, not dramatically, but quietly, slowly, silently, until one day you wake up and realize you never really lived. Nietzsche's answer to this isn't some checklist or productivity hack. It's a revolution of the self. Enter the Übermensch, often translated as Superman or Overman, but it's not about being above others. It's about being above who you were. The Übermensch is the one who creates values instead of inheriting them, who faces pain without flinching. Who knows that every scar is part of their design, not a disfigurement, but a map? This isn't some perfect ideal. It's a direction, a process. The Übermensch isn't someone who never falls. They fall constantly. But they choose to rise again and again, each time less reliant on excuses and more aligned with their truth. So ask yourself, have I been clinging to weakness because it lets me avoid responsibility? Have I accepted beliefs about myself that keep me from risking anything real? Have I adopted the morality of the crowd just to avoid standing alone? Because here's the thing, Nietzsche didn't write for the masses. He wrote for the few. The ones who feel that low, persistent ache that says, there's more in me. If you feel that ache ... you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're waking up. And waking up means grief. It means realizing how much time you've lost, how often you've betrayed yourself, how many times you've whispered someday instead of saying now, but it also means power. Because once you see the chains, you can break them. Once you see the lies, you can reject them. Once you feel the fire, you can fan it into something unrecognizable. Nietzsche wasn't here to comfort you. He was here to provoke you, to strip away the layers of justification and reveal the raw, terrifying, electrifying truth. You are more than your weakness, but only if you choose to be. And if you're willing to choose that, if you're willing to trade comfort for clarity, safety for strength, imitation for individuality, then you're already on the path, not of perfection, but of transformation. Let this be the point of no return, because in the next part, we'll explore how your psychology, your habits, your fears, your stories either reinforce your weakness or set you free. And most importantly, you'll learn how to rewire it all. Don't stop now. You're just starting to remember who you are. You ever feel like you know exactly what to do, and yet something invisible holds you back? You've read the books, listened to the podcasts, maybe even had a breakthrough moment or two. But when it's time to act, really act, your hands shake. Your voice cracks. Your resolve fades. Why? Because the mind isn't just a tool, it's a fortress. And sometimes it's designed not to liberate you, but to keep you safe from growth, from risk, from becoming who you're meant to be. Psychologically, we all build systems to protect ourselves. But those systems, those defense mechanisms, those comforting beliefs, those worn-out identities are often the very reason we stay stuck. Let's unpack it. One of the most studied concepts in modern psychology is learned helplessness. It started with experiments on animals, dogs specifically. Researchers exposed them to mild electric shocks they couldn't escape. After a while, even when the gate was opened and freedom was within reach, the dogs didn't move. They had internalized a belief. There is no way out. That same dynamic happens to people. Repeated rejection. You stop applying. Criticism for speaking up. You stay silent. Punished for trying to lead. You stop raising your hand. Your mind learns the pattern, and then it hardcodes it into your identity. And this is the terrifying part. Over time, it feels like truth, not a belief, not an opinion, a fact. I'm just not a confident person. I'm bad with money. I always mess things up. We stop seeing these thoughts as interpretations. We accept them as law. And once that happens, our life starts to shrink to fit the story. But Nietzsche, ever the rebel, calls bullshit on this. He reminds us, most of what we call truth is just a survival tactic in disguise. And if your truth is keeping you small, maybe it's time to challenge it. Let's bring this down to the ground. Remember Alex, the designer from part 1? His real block wasn't talent, it was identity. He'd been told growing up that people like us don't chase risky dreams. That stability is success. That confidence is arrogance, so he internalized a weak map of what's possible. And now, every time he considers stepping out, his nervous system screams, danger. So he stays in the job, and with every year that passes, his cage becomes more comfortable, more familiar, more invisible, until one day he's not even trying to escape. He's just decorating the walls, and this isn't rare, it's everywhere. We cling to weakness because it feels safer than confronting the pain of change. But here's the paradox Nietzsche exposes. Every time we choose safety over selfhood, we suffer. Not the sharp pain of failure, but the dull, soul-numbing ache of stagnation. It's like being trapped in a room with the lights slowly dimming. At first, you don't notice, then one day, you're in the dark. And you can't even remember when it started. Let us look at a few stories, real and fictional, that show what it looks like to fight your way out. Take Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist. In the depths of Auschwitz, he discovered something astonishing. Even in hell, meaning could be found. That suffering, when chosen consciously, could become power. He could have clung to bitterness, to despair, to victimhood. Instead, he built an inner world stronger than the barbed wire that enclosed him. He later wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." That's the fire Nietzsche spoke of. Now jump to a modern tale. J.K. Rowling, rejected by a dozen publishers, broke, single, and considered a failure. The easy path would have been resignation, blame, self-pity. Instead, she kept writing, kept believing. She built an empire from what most people would have labeled as rock bottom. Or zoom in on something fictional, but deeply human, Rocky Balboa. A washed-up boxer, ignored, underestimated, past his prime, he doesn't fight to win the title. He fights to reclaim his dignity, his agency, his will, because deep down, that's what we're really trying to reclaim. Not perfection, but authorship, the right to say, this is who I am. This is what I'm becoming. So how do we do it? How do we stop clinging to weakness when it's wired into our habits, our memories, even our relationships? It starts with radical awareness. Here are 3 psychological levers that reinforce weakness and what you can do about them. 1. Identity traps. Your identity is the most powerful force in your psychology. It defines what you believe you deserve. If you've always been the shy one, the smart one but not the leader, or the helper who never asks, those roles become invisible prisons. Challenge them. Ask yourself, who would I be without this label? And then, more importantly, who would I choose to become? Because Nietzsche's Übermensch doesn't inherit an identity, he forges one. 2. Emotional conditioning. Your nervous system is shaped by past pain, rejection, embarrassment, shame. They leave marks. So your body flinches even when the threat is gone, but flinching isn't destiny. You can recondition yourself, expose yourself to small discomforts. Speak up, say no, ask for what you want. With each micro-courage, you're telling your body, this is safe now, and over time, the old reflex loses power. 3. Social scripts. Culture loves conformity. It teaches you what's appropriate, what's normal, what's too much. But every revolutionary, every great thinker, every person who broke free, at some point, they stopped playing by those scripts. So should you? Ask, who benefits from me staying small? And what might change if I stopped waiting for permission? This isn't easy. You will face pushback from others and from within. Your mind will tell you, it's too late, you'll fail, you're not ready. But you don't silence that voice by arguing. You silence it by acting anyway. Because confidence isn't the absence of doubt. It's the decision to walk forward while shaking. And every time you do, you collect evidence. I am not fragile. I am not broken. I am becoming. This is what Nietzsche meant when he spoke of becoming who you are. Not returning to some pure version of yourself, but crafting a self that never existed before. Through choice, through discipline, through fire. So I'll ask you again, what would happen if you stopped clinging to your weakness? Not when it's convenient. Not after more preparation. Now, what would it cost you to stay exactly as you are? And what might you gain if you didn't? In the next part, we'll go deeper into tools, frameworks, and daily practices that turn this insight into action. Because insight without action, that's just another kind of weakness. Let's break the cycle, for real this time. If you've made it this far, there's something in you that refuses to settle. You're not just curious. You're hungry for more than survival, more than approval, more than this low ceiling you've been taught to live under. And now it's time to act. This is where philosophy becomes power. Where Nietzsche stops being a name in a book and starts walking beside you. So let's get practical. Let us talk about how you actually stop clinging to weakness and start building a life that reflects the strength you've always suspected you had. No fluff, no gimmicks, just 5 tools, 5 practices, 5 choices you can make starting now. Let's go! 1. Reframe the lie your weakness began as a story, not a fact, a narrative. And every narrative has a frame, a lens that distorts or clarifies reality. Take this statement, I'm too anxious to lead. Sounds like a truth. But look closer. What if it's not a weakness, but a misunderstood strength? Reframe it. My anxiety sharpens my awareness. It makes me detail-oriented. It keeps me humble. You're not denying the emotion. You're redirecting its energy. Nietzsche believed we are creators of values. That includes the value we assign to traits we've labeled bad. So here's your move. Every morning, write down one limiting belief about yourself. Then flip it. Find the strength hiding inside. Write a sentence that starts with, because of this, I am. Do it for 7 days. Watch how quickly your identity shifts from victim to visionary. 2. Choose micro-risks. Nietzsche said, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger, but most people interpret that too literally. They wait for big battles, dramatic failures, heroic comebacks. You don't need that. You need micro-risks. Small, repeatable acts of courage that rewire your nervous system. Scared to speak in meetings? Say one sentence today. Avoiding discomfort? Choose the harder option once a day. Take the stairs, ask for feedback. Say no when it's easier to say yes. Each act is a vote against helplessness. Each moment of discomfort is a furnace forging your future self. And here's what's wild. The mind doesn't care about the size of the risk. It cares about the fact that you chose it. Every time you lean in instead of retreat, your brain says, maybe I'm not the weak one anymore. Start there. 3. Dismantle the social cage. This one is brutal. Most people live by scripts they didn't write. Be polite. Be nice. Be agreeable. Stay small. Don't ask for too much. Don't stand out. Nietzsche saw this and laughed, because nothing is more dangerous than living by borrowed rules. So here's your task. Identify one societal script that's keeping you in chains. It could be, I need to follow a traditional career path. If I fail publicly, I'll lose respect. It's selfish to put my needs first. Now challenge it, deliberately. Say no to a request just because you want to. Post something that reflects your actual beliefs, not your curated image. Apply for something you shouldn't be qualified for. These aren't just actions. They're declarations. I choose myself. You're not rebelling to impress anyone. You're rebelling to remember your autonomy. And once you taste it, you won't go back. 4. Embody the Übermensch. Let's bring this home. The Übermensch isn't an abstract idea. It's a daily practice. Nietzsche's Overman is someone who lives with intention, who chooses their values, faces fear head-on, and creates meaning instead of chasing it. So here's a practice that changes everything. Every morning, visualize your Übermensch. Not a fantasy, a future version of you who has stopped clinging to weakness. What does their day look like? How do they respond to stress? What do they say no to? What energy do they bring into a room? Then live like them for 1 hour, just one. Give yourself permission to embody that future version of you today. It might feel like pretending. It's not. It's practicing. And practice becomes reality faster than you think. Because as Nietzsche said, become who you are. 5. Track the proof your brain believes what you show it. So stop waiting to feel strong. Start proving you are. Use a habit tracker, a journal, a simple note on your phone. Every day, write down one action where you didn't choose weakness. It can be tiny, spoke up, set a boundary, didn't over-explain, made a bold ask, didn't apologize for existing. Each checkmark is a rebellion. Each mark says, this is who I am now, and the more you collect, the less convincing the old voice becomes. Because weakness is loud, but evidence is louder. Let's pause. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real, and real means rough edges. Missed days, setbacks, that's part of it. But if you stay with this, if you keep choosing courage over comfort, creation over compliance, truth over trend, you will change. Not overnight, not all at once, but steadily, sharply, irreversibly. You'll look back at the person who made excuses and barely recognize them. Because something in you broke, not your spirit, your spell. The one that said, this is all I can be. No, it's not. And you know it. So here's what I want you to do. Pick one of these 5 tools. Just one. Do it today, not tomorrow. Not next Monday, today. Then come back here and tell me what happened. Share it, own it, celebrate it. Because if you're still listening, you're not the same person who hit play. You've already stepped forward. Now don't stop. In the final part, we'll pull it all together. We lines talk about what it really means to choose strength for the long haul and how to carry Nietzsche's fire into everything you do. Let's finish what we started. What if the weakness you feared was never your flaw? What if it was your forge? By now, you've seen it. How we shrink ourselves to fit into narratives we didn't right. How we inherit doubt, carry it like tradition, and call it who we are. You've walked through Nietzsche's shadows. You've faced the last man, the one who avoids discomfort at all costs. And you've glimpsed the Übermensch, not as some distant ideal, but as the unlit version of you, waiting to be claimed. Now you stand at the threshold. And here's the raw truth. You were not made to be mild, not made for silence masked as peace, not made to live a life that fits neatly inside someone else's expectations. You were built to burn, to rise, to disrupt, not recklessly, but with consciousness. Because every single day, whether you admit it or not, you choose, will I keep repeating this script? Or will I write a new one? Will I live smaller to be safe? Or larger to be alive? Most people settle. They decorate their limitations, defend their fears, make an art of avoiding risk. But not you, not anymore. Because here's what Nietzsche knew, and what you've come to feel. You don't need anyone's permission to begin. You don't need to wait for more confidence, more clarity, more certainty. You need to choose, and the moment you do, everything shifts. Your presence changes. You speak less, but carry more weight. You stop performing humility and start embodying real self-respect. You don't need to prove. You just are. That's not arrogance. That's sovereignty. It's the quiet power of someone who has faced their weakness and no longer bows to it, because strength isn't the absence of fear. It's refusing to abandon yourself in its presence. And here's your final challenge. Not a task, not a tip. A truth. Live like your future self is watching, because they are. Every decision you make now is building or betraying them, and they're not asking for perfection. They're asking you to stop delaying, to stop excusing, to stop shrinking, to become the person you said you'd be. So choose fire. If this journey stirred something in you, let it keep burning. You've faced yourself. You've challenged old beliefs. You've stepped out of the fog. Now don't slip back. Share one shift, no matter how small. What did you try? What did you see? What did you feel? Drop it in the comments or tag me with your story using #will2power. Let this be the moment you stop consuming content passively and start transforming with intention. And if this lit a fire inside, you'll want to see what's next, because we're not done with Nietzsche. We're going deeper into how to build your purpose, lead with influence, overcome inner chaos, and design a philosophy not just for thinking, but for living. Check the links in the description. And remember this, above all, you are not your fear. You are not your hesitation. You are not your history. You are fire. And fire does not ask for permission to rise. It just does. I'll see you in the next chapter. You're ready. Let's go.